Prime Minister Mark Carney refused to tell reporters what he meant when he warned Canadians they would have to make sacrifices ahead of his long-anticipated federal budget.
A top border security official revealed the Canadian Border Services Agency's annual deportation targets, which would cover less than 10% of the total number of people facing removal orders.
A new study found that Alberta's charter schools significantly outperformed the province's government-run public schools in recent years. Hello, Canada. It's Friday, October 24th, and this is the True North Daily Brief. I'm Clayton, Demaine.
And I'm Walid, Tamtam.
We've got you covered with all the news you need to know. Let's discuss the top stories of the day and the True North exclusives you won't hear anywhere else. Prime Minister Mark Carney avoided answering what he is calling on Canadians to, quote, sacrifice with his upcoming budget plan. During a speech ahead of the Liberals' federal budget given to students in Ottawa on Wednesday, Carney told Canadians, quote, we won't transform our economy easily or in a few months. It will take some sacrifices and it will take some time. Just a day later in Bowmanville, Ontario, Carney avoided answering what sacrifices he expects Canadians to make. He began answering the question of what things he warned Canadians will, quote, have to do less of during his remarks again on Thursday, but quickly pivoted, saying he'll save those announcements for when the budget is released. Conservatives have been calling on Carney to release a budget since he was elected. Carney has promised the budget will be released on November 4th.
You just said in your remarks, and you said it last night in your speech as well, that we'll have to do less of some of the things that we want to do. So what are some of those things, Prime Minister?
Look, we'll have a budget, and all aspects of the budget will reveal that. We'll have to move more slowly on certain aspects of well, you know what? I think we should, why don't I not scoop the budget and we'll let it come out through the budget.
Carney promised to continue funding federal health transfers to provinces for their healthcare systems, childcare support, dental care, and national school food program to help the, quote, most vulnerable in Canadian society. He said, quote, there's certain demands or desires to expand in different areas, and we won't be able to move as quickly as we otherwise would because there's certain things we must do to take back control and to build this country. Carney also said that he would take, quote, good ideas from opposition parties and incorporate them into the budget. So Walid, Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre had a press conference just moments after on Thursday. I know you wrote about it. So what were some of the things that Conservatives were saying in response to this?
Well, he kind of described Carney as a counterfeit conservative, apparently, because he talked about how while there was some mention of austerity, cuts to spending, and a commitment to cut down spending on the operational budget and balance it by the next 3 years, I guess it offers little comfort to the Conservative Party's needs and demands, specifically referring to the fact that he believes that this is just more of the same. I mean, Pierre Poilievre said himself that he's promising Mark Carney, that is, more suffering, more slogans, more bureaucracy, and more waste. He also referred to the Liberal decade and the fact that he hasn't actually reversed the single policy that has caused us pain. Of course, the carbon tax are among those policies, but we know that the carbon tax itself hasn't been fully repealed as a law. Also, what's a bit more deceptive for Canadians to understand is that the operational budget commitment is actually a bit of a misleading metric, because what you have now is you have this Carney tactic of splitting the budget of the operating budget of the government and the capital budget. And that's actually something that Conservative MP Michael Cooper previously described as a creative accounting measure in order to hide the real deficit of government spending, which is, as we know, significant. Poilievre later talked about how Canadians are losing their paychecks to inflation and how homes are now leading to higher mortgage payments, and all this economic downturn is causing them to lose hope. So we pretty much just said that Carney had no credibility and that Carney is, quote, saying the right things, but does the opposite. That's not conservative, that's counterfeit. So nothing in terms of praise for Polyev, much more critical response from him. And of course, Pierre met with him, Mark Carney, on Wednesday and had pushed for some measures. We're not sure what the budget will look like exactly just yet, but as we're getting closer to the November 4th budget reveal, it seems that the Conservative Party and Pierre Poilievre aren't so supportive of Carney's message as of yet.
Hey, Kian Bexty here. Do you know someone, maybe it's you, who wants to start a career in politics, but can't stand the thought of wasting years and years in a lecture hall while some woke professor drones on about gender studies? Well, we found the perfect alternative. Macquarie College's Applied Politics and Public Affairs program. It's a 2-year evening and online program available all across Canada, where you'll actually learn how to run campaigns, organize movements, and push policy in the right direction. Instead of empty theory, you'll complete 3 practicums, real-world placements in your community or with the party that you believe in. That's job-ready experience that opens doors straight into politics. And here's the best part. If you apply with code Juno, or simply tell admissions that Juno News sent you, you'll unlock an exclusive $500 scholarship that is exclusive just for our listeners. We're backing this program because we want more of our audience inside the system, making changes from the inside out. With September and January intakes open now, this is your moment. Visit macquariecollege.com or click the link in our show notes to apply.
A top border security official revealed that Canada plans to deport less than a tenth of those issued removal orders annually for 2 years, citing an inability to track individuals on a, quote, systematic level, and the vast majority of cases being delayed by the appeal process. During the House of Commons Immigration Committee meeting on Wednesday, Canada Border Services Agency Vice President of Intelligence and Enforcement, Aaron McCrory, told MPs the agency plans to enforce 20,000 removal orders each year. McCrory said around 18,000 people have already been deported this year, but that 200,000 to 300,000 individuals who have been issued removal orders are currently being processed by the Immigration Refugee Board of Canada, a federal appeals court, and a, quote, Immigration Refugee Board of Canada, IRB, a federal appeals court, and it, quote, wouldn't make sense to track each of them. McCrory also mentioned that some individuals from countries where Canada cannot deport people, such as Haiti or Sudan, who have been declared inadmissible, quote, can't be removed, and aren't considered cases the agency is, quote, actively looking to work on to remove. When answering a question from Conservative MP Frank Davies about the CBSA's targets for removal enforcement, McCrory clarified that there are currently 30,000 individuals marked as removals in progress, but that the agency will only aim to deport 2/3 of those each year for the next 2 years. This means the agency has only deported 18,000 of the up to at least 330,000 individuals who have been issued deportation orders. So Clayton, why are so few of those facing removal orders actually deported?
Well, Walid, from what I gather from immigration experts and the testimonies at these immigration committees from border security and immigration officials, it seems like the bulk of what is preventing illegal migrants from being deported is the very systems Canada has to ensure due process and the safety of those migrants. And before I go on, there was a Justice Committee yesterday where the ratio said in the article of those being deported versus how many have been ordered to be removed is even more stark. So let's go to that clip now.
30,000 removals in progress of people we are engaging. We have 32,000 warrants for people that we are looking for.
32, I beg your pardon? There are 32,000 warrants?
People who are in our wanted inventory that we are actively looking for.
I'm sorry. You have...
And I'll point out, all of this is posted publicly. These aren't secret numbers. They're on the CBSA website.
So you know them, but the minister doesn't.
So if we take the high end of those numbers, including both the 30,000 who the CBSA said are being engaged right now, and the 32,000 who have active warrants, but the CBSA are unaware of where they are, and the 200,000 to 300,000 caught up in the delay system, the CBSA could have actually only arrested less than 5% instead of less than 10%, as was originally said in the article. But as McCrory said during the committee, even if a migrant is ordered to leave, they could appeal to both the Immigration and Refugees Board or a federal appeals court to have the decisions overturned. They could also ask for a pre-removal risk assessment with the hopes that Canada decides they can't deport the person back to their country due to the potential for persecution or other harms. And it's only after all of that is done that a person could actually be deported. And by that time, it's possible that those individuals are simply lost in Canada, like these 32,000 illegal migrants that have active warrants. But I spoke to immigration lawyer Sergio Caras last week about his recommendations to improve this system. And he noted that in the US, the government can just override the US equivalent of these tribunals and appeals courts and deport an illegal migrant they don't want in the country. But Canada does not have that. And, historically, people who are even convicted terrorists have taken decades to be deported through Canada's migration system. And he suggested that travel bans be increased on people who have been deported so they don't come back into the country a year or two later and start the whole process over again. And also recommended creating administrative monetary penalties so that those who overstay their welcome would have to pay Canada back if they want to start their migration process again. A new study has found that students at Alberta's charter schools scored significantly higher on provincial achievement tests than their government-run counterparts. The study, conducted by secondstreet.org, examined 22 provincial achievement tests written between 2022 and 2024. It found that charter school students outperformed those in traditional public and Catholic schools on every test across all subjects and grades. On average, charter students scored 9.3 points higher than public school students and 7.7 points higher than Catholic school students. Bakshis Barua, secondstreet.org's research director and author of the study, said, quote, "Ask any parent if they want their child to go to a school where students tend to score nearly 10 points higher on average, and the answer is obvious. The provincial government will want to think about how it can help more kids access these high-performing schools." The study found the largest gap in grade 9 mathematics, where charter students scored 14.1 percentage points higher than public school students in 2024. The smallest gap was in grade 6 science, where results were 6.2 points higher than Catholic schools. So Walid, people in Alberta might not actually know what charter schools are. So can you explain, what are charter schools and what could explain why they are performing better than these government-run institutions in the province?
Well, Clayton, a charter school by definition is a school that is independent but receives public funding. I think charter schools are essentially a product of the broader school choice movement, which was heavily influenced by my favorite economist, Milton Friedman, and his work. They're tuition-free public schools that operate independently from that of traditional public schools that are regulated by, for example, the Catholic School Board, the Public School Board, the French School Board, and the other school boards we have across provinces in Canada. Now, what makes them very successful for student performance is that students are able to get more curated, individualized, and specialized education packages and opportunities because, again, the school itself is independent. So its board of accountability is not a school board governing a region of thousands, if not millions of students, but rather dealing with the parents and the kids and the community itself. Of course, in different communities, different skills, different social education will be much more beneficial than in others, and that's where things become more helpful. You have, for example, programs like the IB, programs like exchange student programs or travel abroad. all kinds of new innovative methods of getting students the best opportunity in their youth to learn and grow, these schools typically bring in a higher proportion because, again, they're able to wage programs according to the needs of their own student population rather than sharing a kind of a maximized, centrally governed model. Now, one of the criticisms that normally level against those that are not very much in favor of school choice or, frankly, charter schools for that matter, are people that believe that charter schools essentially favor those that are already in privileged situations, maybe those that come from a high income family or an upper middle class background. And the fact of the matter is, regardless of income, or in the case that we know we're living in the DEI era, where race will always be a part of conversations, even if they don't need be. The Stanford University's Hoover Institute actually published a major national study back in 2023 when they showed that and they used data based from 29 different states, including the District of Columbia and New York City specifically as well. The typical charter school student had been found to have greater math and reading gains that outpaced those peers in traditional public schools, but also those learning gains were significantly higher among Blacks and Hispanics and those living in poverty. So the gain between public and private across the board is significant, but it's even more significant in terms of how it can bridge the gap and take people's potential higher when you're looking at people from low-income backgrounds or from, as we would say in the woke sense, racialized communities. So it completely blows the narrative out of the water of the one-size-fits-all, public-funded, public regulation, government-run typical traditional schools. I think charter schools have a great benefit here in Canada, where we have a bit more school choice than in the US, but across the border, both charter schools compared to public schools have won the battle across the two countries. So clearly, this is a model that should definitely be considered and adopted more when education becomes a forefront topic of public policy.
That's it for today, folks. Thanks for tuning in. You can stay on top of new episodes every weekday by subscribing to the Daily Brief on iTunes and Spotify. Also, while you're at it, make sure to hit us with a 5-star rating and please leave a review.